Reading in 1 Corinthians chapter 11 today, and it was talking about communion, where Christians uh, drink juice or wine and they eat bread or crackers, and they do that to remember Christ's sacrifice. The juice or the wine represents Jesus' blood, and the bread or the cracker represents his body. And Jesus said to do that in remembrance of him, to remember him, and to do that ceremony so that we can remember what he did for us. And I was doing some reading, and I found out that Buzz Aldrin, who was one of the first men to ever make it to the moon, he was an astronaut, that he actually, one of the first things he did after he landed on the moon was to take communion. And so what happens is there was a lunar orbiter, and lunar means having to do with the moon. So there was an orbiter going around the moon, and out of the orbiter they deployed the lunar module, which was a smaller ship that they flew down to the surface of the moon, and there were two people on that module, in the lunar module. That was Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong. And so this is Buzz Aldrin's account of taking the communion. He says they just landed on the moon. He said, "I opened the little plastic packages which contained the bread and the wine. I poured the wine into the chalice our church had given me. In the 1/6 gravity of the moon, the wine slowly curled and gracefully came up the side of the cup. Then I read the scripture, 'I am the vine, you are the branches. Whosoever abides in me will bring forth much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing.' I ate the tiny host, or the bread, and swallowed the wine. I gave thanks for the intelligence and spirit that had brought two young pilots to the Sea of Tranquility." Now, the Sea of Tranquility was the spot. It was, I think it was a valley on the moon where these men landed, and they named it the Sea of Tranquility. It wasn't really a sea. But he says it was interesting for me to think the very first liquid ever poured on the moon and the very first food eaten there were the communion elements. And of course, it's interesting to think that some of the first words spoken on the moon were the words of Jesus Christ, who made the earth and the moon, and who, in the immortal words of Dante, is himself the love that moves the sun and other stars. So I thought that was a really neat story, that the scripture he read ends with him saying, "Apart from me, you can do nothing." And he recognized that except for God being a part of it, there was no way man ever could have made it to the moon. And apart from God being the creator that he is, there never would have been an earth or a moon. So he took that time to acknowledge God, and I think that probably made the Lord happy at that time, at such a monumental moment for humankind, that the man who was in that moment took a second to remember what Christ had done and to recognize that without God and without Jesus' love, none of that was possible. So I hope you enjoyed that story. I thought it was really cool. Love you. Have a good day.